Best thing since sliced bread. Best thing since sliced bread, Wilfred Ruck.
If you like new ideas, as I do, or if you're an early adopter, as I am, or if you like gadgets, as many of you do, you've probably said the phrase, man, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Well, there's a really fascinating story behind that, which I was amazed to find out, actually. Think about it. Sliced bread is great. Before sliced bread, you had to get a knife, you had to hold the loaf, you had to cut it, there was crumbs. Then came sliced bread. It was fantastic. Well, here's what's behind the story. There was a guy named Otto Rodwetter, and he was a jewelry store owner. He must have been a fantastic salesperson, just by the way, because he had a dream of making a sliced bread machine. He decided to conduct some market research. He actually took out an ad in a couple of papers and for the purpose of determining what was the perfect thickness of a slice of bread. After a couple of months, he got back over 30,000 responses. And this is where the salesman part comes in. He sells his 3 jewelry stores. And what he had to do was obviously sell that idea to his wife, huh? He had building the first prototype in an abandoned warehouse way outside of town. Now, it was common knowledge that sliced bread didn't maintain its texture and its freshness as long as regular bread did. So he came up with the idea of putting these long hat pins into the end of the bread. However, that didn't seem to work really well, and the bakers who tested the loaves complained that those metal pieces routinely fell out. So he worked for a year. He returned to his warehouse, and with the feverish intensity of a mad scientist, he sketched hundreds of blueprints. Then in 1917, a year later, his worst nightmare happened. The factory, all his blueprints, all the tools, everything, including the prototype, burned to the ground. He refused to back down. He found work as an investment banker and securities agent and slowly rebuilt his funds. I'm sorry, I just had to pause there thinking of what it was like to have to tell his wife, oh, that didn't work out, did it? Slowly rebuilt his funds and sought out a couple of investors. 10 years later, he built another bread slicing machine, this time without the pins. This bread slicing machine actually took the individual slices and wrapped them in wax. That was a way to keep the individual things fresh. And he sold his machine to a company called the Chillicothe Baking Company, appropriately enough, in Chillicothe, Missouri. And a back page ad claimed that it was the greatest step forward since bread was wrapped. So now you know what was the greatest thing before sliced bread. Wrapped bread. 2 days later, another ad appeared, told readers that they'd never find a wonder of a better kind. And within a few years, no surprise, Wonder Bread became America's favorite bread. And for those little circles that you see, that was when the vice president of manufacturing went to a balloon festival, and he was inspired by the idea. That's why those little things are on the Wonder Bread thing. But the story doesn't end there. In 1942, about 13 years later, war broke out. And in 1943, the head of the War Foods Administration got the bright idea to ban pre-sliced bread in America because it would save steel, wax paper, and wheat. A lot of bakeries didn't like this. In the New York area, the supervisor warned bakeries and delicatessen and other stores that were continuing to slice bread to stop, saying to protect the cooperating bakeries against the unfair competition of those who continue to slice their own bread. We are prepared to take stern measures if necessary. Confiscate the machines? It's got to the point that there was actually an editorial in the New York Times. Lady writes in and says, I would like you to know how important sliced bread is to the morale and the sameness of a household. My husband and 4 children are all in a rush during and after breakfast. Without ready sliced bread, I must do it all by hand. 2 slices for each one, that's 10. For their lunches, I must cut by hand 20 slices. Afterwards, I make my own toast. 22 slices of bread to be cut in a hurry. They look less appetizing than the baker's neat, even pieces. And don't the bakers already have their bread slicing machines? Besides, I can't even afford a sharp knife. Within 2 months, the ban was rescinded. It said on the front page of the New York Times, sliced bread put back on sale. Housewives' thumbs safe again. You can't make this stuff up. You can't. You can look this up. Well, today there's a marker at that bakery that identifies the red brick building at 100 Elm Street as the former site of the Chillicothe Baking Company, the home of sliced bread. Otto went on to become inducted into the Hall of Fame of Bakery. There is actually such a thing. And now you know the rest of the story.